The chosen one. Pay careful attention. This message is not intended for the audience. It is not for people who fit in, obey the norms of the world, and feel at ease in it. This is for you, the person who has always felt like a stranger, even in familiar surroundings. The one who wonders why things never seem to go as planned. You didn't find this video by chance. This is a heavenly interruption and a message from beyond the veil. And it came to you at the best moment. Allow me to ask you something. Have you ever felt fatigued simply thinking about taking on another job? Not because you're lazy, but because you know you're not meant to be there. Do you feel like your spirit is rejecting the thought of settling into anything that may darken your light? Have you been hearing a deeper voice within, whispering, "There is something more you are supposed to do"? If so, you are not lost. You're not broken. You're not behind. God has diverted you. The chosen ones do not seek employment in the same way that the rest of the population does. Why? Because they were never come here only as laborers. They were brought here to be woken ears, to carry heavenly responsibilities, and to serve as human reminders that this world is not the only one. You've probably realized by now that no matter how hard you attempt to follow the so-called conventional route, something always fails. It does not hold. It does not click. You are not cursed. You are being set aside. This universe has mechanisms that were never designed with you in mind. And God's message for you today is straightforward. Do not go after employment. Do this. Instead, totally embody your heavenly talent. Step into the call that has been pushing on your spirit from the moment you were born. You're intended to live by a different blueprint, which is why things haven't gone as planned. Heaven's plan is one in which your mission generates you, a provision in which your obedience draws plenty, and your gift opens doors that no application ever could. This message isn't intended to inspire you for a minute. It is intended to awaken you to your actual function. You're not here to blend in. You are here to disrupt patterns, to shine light on dark areas, and to live in such a manner that people realize who they are just by being near you. The time for hiding is done. The time for playing tiny is over. You are being called to spiritual entrepreneurship, prophetic leadership, divine creativity, and healing missions that no worldly job title can encompass. So if your soul was moved while listening, or if you're feeling a confirmation in your breast right now, leave a remark for 44 below. So I know this reached you. In addition, please subscribe to this channel, Rise of the Chosen. Tap the bell symbol to share this message with someone else who is confused about their mission. This is not a motivating lecture. This is alignment. This is your spiritual return to the truth you have always known. You were selected by God, and your donation is not optional. This is your homework. Welcome to the Rise of the Chosen One. You've been attempting to push yourself into a system that was never intended for you. Every time you attempted to follow the route that others described as safe, responsible, or normal, something in your soul shut down. You could have blamed yourself. You may have believed you were sluggish, unreliable, or ungrateful. But the reality goes deeper than what they told you. You were never meant to seek employment. You were designed to walk in divine purpose from the minute you were born. The world started preparing you to serve its machine. Go to school, get your degree, seek for jobs, compete, advance, and retire. But you've always thought there was something odd about that rhythm, whilst others were driven by advancements or prestige. You were asking for purpose when others were pleased to fit into roles. You were plagued by an unknown calling. That is not dysfunction. That is divine discord. That's the spirit inside you rejecting what the world demands of you. Chosen ones do not prosper in employment that hide their talents. You may have worked previously. Perhaps you still are. But deep down, you know that's not the end goal. You've always felt that there was something more. That feeling of wanting more is not motivated by avarice or delusion. Heaven is reminding you of your mission. It's God teaching you that your life should be defined by the light you carry and release into the world, not by your job title. You see, jobs were formed to organize work, but your soul was not sent to this world of drudgery and routine. You were brought here to create, awaken, and transform atmospheres. Traditional employment structures might seem like a prison for a selected one who sits at a desk and is micromanaged, working on objectives that have nothing to do with eternity. It drains you not because you are entitled, but because your soul understands that your energy is valuable and your time is a gift. Nonetheless, you are likely to have been judged for it. They could have claimed you don't try hard enough, or you usually give up too soon. But they don't comprehend. What seems to be inconsistency on the surface is usually spiritual will opposition on the inside. You cannot remain where your spirit is choking. You can't pretend to care about mechanisms meant to divert the selected one's attention away from their actual task. Your true effort starts with your compliance. That is something the world will never tell you, since obedience does not always seem to be beneficial. At first, it seems to be stillness, repose, or the writing of something no one has seen yet. Starting a project that does not provide immediate results yet is considered dangerous by heaven is known as alignment, and it is the road you have been asked to follow. You weren't meant to hustle your way to survival. You are called to change the way others survive. You are not designed to fill roles. You were created to provide room for others to discover their own truth. You are not designed to be utilized. You were designed to guide, heal, and disclose, to create something that transports God's presence into locations where the church will not go. When you pursue employment, you wind up narrowing your purpose in order to fit into someone else's goal. However, as you choose obedience, you begin to enlarge your life to bear the full weight of your job. That's when things start to line up. That is when provisions are made. That's when the doors open that resumes cannot unlock. So, no, you are not lazy or confused. You are not ungrateful. You are a chosen one, and chosen ones do not seek employment in the same manner that the general public does. They go into the duties that were waiting for them. Yes, they advance to positions that don't make sense on paper. They prioritize God's voice above human approval, and they live lives that inspire others without trying. That's why you've never been pleased at work, since it was never the aim. Transformation means disrupting, rebuilding, and awakening others from their sleep. So quit trying to fit in somewhere you weren't intended to be. You were created to lead from a place that no man can understand. Heaven has already approved you. Now it's time to walk like the chosen one. How many times have you been told that you're squandering your potential because you're not doing enough? That you are lazy? You've undoubtedly heard it from parents, professors, or even friends. People who adore you, yet don't get you. But allow me to speak to your spirit right now. What the world considers lazy is often something much more holy. It is heavenly resistance. You are not meant to react in the same manner that others do. The weight you feel when you attempt to be like everyone else is not a sign of weakness. It's bliss rejecting the world's expectations for you. It's God saying, not here, not now, not for you. Others are able to easily go from one job to another. Something in you tightens up. Your body becomes fatigued. Your soul withdraws. Your energy shuts off. This isn't because you lack discipline. It is because you were never supposed to pursue someone else's ambition at the expense of your own. The world wants you to judge your value based on how busy you are, how productive you seem, and how much money you bring in. However, heaven has a different measurement. It is about obedience, not action. It is about alignment, not accomplishment. You might be doing less in the sight of the world while doing more in the spirit, because you're acting on purpose rather than under pressure. And that is what most people would not comprehend. They can't perceive your spiritual mission, so they evaluate your human acts, using the term laziness to describe their inability to understand your plan. But you're not lazy. You are being retrained. You're in the process. You are being cleansed of outdated programming to create way for heavenly teaching. That process might seem to be stagnant at times. Like silence. Stepping away from the hubbub allows you to hear God more clearly. However, in a culture obsessed with bustle, stillness seems to be failure. Allow me to tell you something essential. You do not need to show your value to anybody. You have been selected by God. That alone sets you distinct. The fact that you cannot operate like the majority is not a weakness. This is your confirmation. You are not like them because you are not designed to live like them. Your mind is designed to receive heavenly downloads. Your heart is designed to handle precious burdens. Your existence is intended to challenge conventions rather than adhere to them. So, whenever you find yourself opposing the grind, halt and ask yourself, is this disobedience or divine resistance? More often than not, your spirit is attempting to protect you from misalignment. Because the incorrect answer might postpone the right call. The incorrect chance might taint your task, or the wrong employment condemn the very light that God is attempting to cultivate in you. The chosen ones do not prosper in man-made systems. They move best when they follow the divine flow. That flow is not always swift. It's not always spectacular. But it's always correct. You may not currently have a title. You may not have as much money as others, but you do have something that cannot be faked. Heaven's hand is on your life, and it will go you farther than any resume or reference ever could. This season you're in may be bewildering. You could wake up one day and question what you're doing with your life. But I assure you that if you yield to God's will, even in the solitude, you are performing holy work. You're being set aside. You are being prepped. The delay is not a rejection. The opposition is not a rejection. It's a redirection. You are not designed to move only for the sake of movement. You are supposed to move whenever the Spirit moves you. This is how selected ones ascend. Instead of seeking achievement, follow the hidden rhythm of the divine. That rhythm may not always make sense, but it always has a purpose. And if you've been experiencing the want to relax, slow down, or realign, don't resist it. It's possible that God is saving you for something much higher. So, the next time someone challenges your speed or makes you feel like you're slipping behind, remember that you are not lazy. You're being guided. Comment 333. Allow them to speak if you know the word was intended for you. Allow them to believe that while they pursue what the world has to offer, you are preparing for what heaven has in store for you, including heavenly opposition. Your mission is too sacred to haste. The chosen one. God did not put you here empty-handed before you breathed your first breath. The gift was put within you. This is neither a random skill or a hobby, a celestial instrument created by heaven itself. And that gift is more than simply something you own. This is your homework. You've been looking for your purpose and positions among people and locations. However, the word from God is obvious. Stop gazing outwards. Start by looking inside. Your gift isn't an extra. It is the most important thing. Many chosen ones live in confusion because they have been trained to minimize their innate abilities. You've undoubtedly shrugged aside your talents because they were too simple or apparent. You thought that true labor must be difficult and unpleasant. But the divine does not function via strife. It flows via grace. That ease you experience when you talk, produce, or lead, correct? People construct or lead. That's not a coincidence. That is confirmation. God is saying, this is what I gave you to give to the world. The world has trained you to conceal it. I told you that you needed to be practical. Said your donation was insufficient to maintain you. But God's message trumps all of that. What you keep within you is not for amusement or ego. It is for impact. Your gift was intended to awaken people, to mend wounded hearts, to offer clarity where there is uncertainty, and to show light in regions darkened by despair. The opponent was aware of this, which is why he targeted your confidence. Why have you faced self-doubt? Why have you been silenced in spaces when your voice was important? However, the season of shrinking is finished. You are not being asked to pursue employment. You are being asked to use your heavenly talent. Heaven does not hire workers. It is sending out messages. Healers, prophets or creatives, teachers, creators of spiritual infrastructure. You may not have a business card or a degree to prove it, but if God gives you a talent, that is all the evidence you need. That gift is your calling card. It serves as the foundation for the rest of your career. Your provision will be linked to it. Your effect will be born from it. And this is the reality. Most will not inform you if you do not reciprocate the gift. It becomes a burden. This is why you felt worried, restless, and annoyed. It is not depression. It is being utilized for an inappropriate purpose. The gift is too strong to be buried. It requires expression. It needs to be utilized for kingdom movement rather than clout or acclaim. And the longer you delay it, the more intense the resistance gets. You do not need to figure out each step. Start with what you currently have in your hands. That vision, that voice, that burning concept, that burden for those in pain, the way you once were. That is the gift, trying to get out. It's not a random impulse. It is heavenly urging. It's heaven's nudge to stop hiding behind duties and excuses and start doing what you were meant to accomplish. Pay careful attention to what I am saying. Your donation is not too tiny. It isn't too late. You have not missed it. Divine assignments have no expiry date. It does not matter how old you are. It does not matter what you have lost. No matter what errors you've made, God's message remains the same. Use what I've given you. That's where your power lies. That is where your provision is. That's where your item is picked. 1. Don't underestimate what has been put within you. You don't have to impersonate someone else to walk with purpose. You simply need to conform to the original design. You're not here to fit in. You came here to stand out. Your generosity is what makes this possible. It is not proud to walk in your strength. It is loyal. It is accountable. It is sacrosanct. So I'm telling you right now that your job isn't to locate a job. Your duty is to discover flow, listen, and trust. The Holy Voice is directing you back to yourself. From there, you'll move, talk, and live differently. And those who need what you have will discover you. You will not need to beg for opportunities. When you acknowledge the gift, the mission will show itself. Allow this message to be the moment. Everything shifts when you cease fleeing from your calling. The moment you realize your peace has always been linked to your mission. And if something in your soul is soaring right now, comment 666. So I know you're becoming more aware of what's already within you. You were selected by God not to imitate others, not to seek titles, but to expose heaven by the exact thing He created inside your spirit. The gift is the task. Walk through it. The chosen one. Something enormous is changing in the spirit. And if you've been feeling funny recently, that's why you're not imagining things. You are not broken. You are being activated. And what's being awakened in you has nothing to do with surviving, everything to do with creating something new. The old economy is crumbling on you. The work, the hustle, the scarcity mentality, and the frantic job hunt. Those doors don't open because they were never supposed to. Because God is ushering His chosen ones into a new economy founded on purpose, presence, and power. This is not about money in the manner that the world understands it. This is about the heavenly flow, provision that follows obedience. Alignment attracts resources rather than effort. For so long, you've been told that if you don't work for someone else, you won't live. However, you are now being shown that your call is not related to a payout. It's linked to impact. And where there is effect, there is provision. Where there is alignment, there is accessibility. This new economy is being established by chosen ones, individuals who no longer fit into traditional categories. The world is created. This economy does not need you to surrender your soul. It doesn't expect you to pretend to be someone you aren't. It asks you to bring your whole self, your whole gift, to your fullest truth. It also pays in serenity, power, and riches without requiring you to be exhausted. You are not being lazy by leaving the old system and entering a higher one. Look around. Spirit-led entrepreneurs are on the rise. Prophetic voices are finding a forum. Healing hands are techniques that promote openness. Writers are being asked to produce words that set prisoners free. Artists are waking spirits, mentors, coaches, educators, and CEOs. People like you are recognizing that they were never designed to beg for work. They were created to create locations where paradise might be seen and felt via their abilities. You've been unhappy with your last job. This is not a mistake. It is a signal. God is informing you that what used to work is no longer acceptable. The task has changed, and your supply, component, or next level. It's all tied to what you've been carrying in silence. It is time to cease concealing it. The new economy requires you to be completely visible and engaged. This is not about leaving your work overnight. This is about listening, aligning, beginning, taking intentional measures to share your talent with the world. It could start small. A few individuals, a few discussions, and a few bits of material. However, what seems tiny in your hands might become extraordinary in God's hands. You just need to say yes. The yes is the coin that moves things in the spiritual realm. When you agree to the mission, heaven starts to finance what you are constructing. You won't have to compete. In current economy, you will not need to hustle as much as you did before. Presence equals power. Obedience is strategic. Flow equals sustainability. And trust is an investment. Chosen ones are not here to battle for crumbs. You're here to share spiritual richness, clarity, serenity, healing, and enlightenment. And God is now revealing you how to do it in a manner that will sustain you while also changing others. If you sense that something new is stirring, or if you know that this message is appealing to your spirit, comment 777. So I know you're feeling it. You are not hallucinating the change. You are part of it. The rise of the chosen is more than simply a slogan. It is a movement. A new spiritual economy is being developed. And you're one of the architects. The earth may not comprehend it, but heaven has already authorized it. It's time to start building. The chosen one. You've been trained to pursue money, seek security, and evaluate your worth by your earnings. But allow me to tell you something that will change your whole outlook. Divine provision does not follow effort. It serves a function. When you walk in your God-given duty, provision starts to flow not because you work more than everyone else, but because heaven is supporting what you were meant to accomplish. The global system urges, get a job to survive. God says, step into your calling and I will provide. This is not a remote theory. This is a spiritual rule for those who have never prospered chasing checks. It's why you've always felt exhausted while doing what others praise. It's why, no matter how amazing the work seemed on paper, your spirit felt suffocated since you were never designed to live just on income. You were supposed to live off assignment. You are not like everyone else, and your supply will not come as easily as it does for others. For you, doors do not open just because you apply. They open when you comply. You may send out applications and receive nothing in return, but you must say yes to what God said to you in secret. Things suddenly start to align. Resources arrive and people show up. Favor arises not because you demanded it, but because you agreed with it. God finances his missions, not your concerns, your backup plans, or the alternatives you devised when you didn't believe in your talent. He finances what he calls. And the reason certain things haven't worked is because you've been attempting to fund something that heaven has never approved. However, the minute you enter into what you were actually intended for, even if it is terrifying or unclear, provision begins to pour. I get what you're thinking, but how will I live? What about the bills? What about the responsibilities? And these are reasonable questions. But this is the holy truth. When you prioritize your mission, God will prioritize your needs. He is not a carefree parent. He doesn't call you into a situation and then leave you to sort it out alone. If you are walking in the way he has called you to, you are entitled to supernatural provision. Period. You may not notice everything at once. God sometimes supplies in parts to help you trust. Sometimes he allows the vision to strain you so that your faith muscles develop. However, you are not doomed to lack. Scarcity is not something you inherit. You are no beggar. You are the chosen vessel. And as long as you pour out what he placed within of you, he will continue to pour into you what you need. Many of us have been locked in survival mode, doing whatever it takes to get by. However, purpose is more than merely getting by. Purpose pushes you to overflow. Maybe not immediately, but someday, since purpose creates something that employment never do. Divine momentum. When you start living from that place, your perspective on life changes. You're no longer waiting for opportunities. You create with your spirit. Opportunities begin to discover you. Let's get genuine. There is a cost to purpose. You may lose comfort. You can be misconstrued. You could move away from what seems to be secure. In exchange, you get an unlimited supply of provisions. Because it is not originating from man. It is coming from God. You grow to rely on insight, preferring tranquility, clarity, and opportune doors that no effort could have opened. This is why others will not comprehend your journey. They won't understand why you left the position, why you declined the offer, and why you're choosing to develop something from your heart rather than following what everyone else is doing. But you don't need their approval if you have heaven's support. Let them ridicule. Allow them to inquire. You are not being reckless. You are being guided. Every time you honor the calling, a provision appears. Sometimes it seems to be a human sent to assist. Sometimes there is an unexpected financial breakthrough. Sometimes it takes fortitude to keep going when everything around you seemed unattainable. But it always arrives. Why? Because you said yes, and that. Yes, resources have been unlocked as a result of your willingness to quit attempting to figure everything out before moving. Start going and let God meet you along the road. Walk toward your goal as if it's already financed. Because in spirit it is. You will not be black when you are aligned. You will not collapse when called upon. You were selected not only to live, but also to serve as a living example of divine providence in human form. The chosen one. If this message has directly addressed your spirit, you already know what to do. Leave a comment below. Speak into the atmosphere. My goal will be met via provision. Say it out, believe it, and move as if it has already happened. Because if you go with purpose, it is already selected. What if I told you that the next stage in your path doesn't include learning anything new? It's about unlearning things you were never meant to believe in the first place. The journey to your divine assignment does not start with a course, a degree, or a job. It starts with relinquishing the falsehoods you were taught by a world that was never intended for your type. Heaven may grow through you. It must first demolish everything fake that has been established in you. You've been trained from infancy to think in terms of control, competitiveness, and survival. That's where your value comes from. How hard you grind. That your identity is associated with a work title. That stability is more important than vision. However, none of those concepts originated from God. They come from a system that requires you to be helpful, but not strong. Efficient, but not awake. Busy, but not aligned. And now heaven is facing everything. That tightness, that restlessness, will not go away no matter how hard you try to ignore it. That is the spiritual conflict between the earth's script and heaven's design. Someone instructs you to get in line. The other instructs you to stand and lead. One advises, play it safe. The other reads, walk in faith. One holds you chained by terror. The other urges you to develop with a vision. And you can't carry both while receiving the totality of heaven's teaching. You must let go of the world voices. Unlearning is a hard process. It seems confusing at first because everything that was once familiar starts to crumble. But the collapse is sacred. It is sacrosanct. It's vital because God will never pour new purpose into a mind that's still stuck in old routines. He's altering not just your surroundings, but also how you perceive, think, hear, and make decisions. You have been trained to question, will this make money? God is teaching you to inquire, is this in alignment? You've been conditioned to follow popular trends. God is instructing you to obey what is prophetic. You have been instructed to seek consolation. God is urging you to walk into divine pain, where true development occurs, and each step of obedience may feel weird at first because it contradicts all you were taught to believe. But it is an indication that you are on the correct route. There will be days when you believe you're losing your mind. Days when you doubt all you know to be normal. You are being rewired, recalibrated, and stripped of the world's reasoning so that you may function with spiritual intelligence. And this spiritual intelligence will cause you to make decisions that make no sense to others but make perfect sense in heaven. You will reject offers that seem nice but do not feel right. You will reject occupations that offer steadiness, but steal your spirit. You'll start to value your tranquility above your money. The plan will gradually show itself. Not everything at once, but in steps. God does not give you the complete picture right now. He sends you directions, nudges, and confirmations, and as you follow through, the road becomes clearer. It's not as if there was no plan. Your previous programming was obscuring your view. Now, as you unlearn the world's cacophony, you may finally hear God's voice. You'll start to see synchronicities, divine timing, conversations that support your intuition, opportunities that do not make logic but feel absolutely appropriate. These are not coincidences. They represent the unfolding of heaven's scheme. Because once you unlearn fear, performance, and striving, you may live in trust, present, and flow. This is when you become dangerous. This is when you become unstoppable. That is when the adversary loses its grasp. The world will continue to attempt to drag you back. It will label you reckless, impractical, and even rebellious. However, you must remember that you were not picked to continue the cycle. You were selected to break them. That means traversing roads that others are too terrified to even consider. It entails creating something that has never been before, saying what has never been stated, trusting a vision that no one else sees. So, if everything seemed to be coming apart, don't worry. You aren't being destroyed. You are being freed from programming that never belonged to you, systems that kept you tiny, and beliefs that held you behind. And every aspect of this shattering prepares you to hold the new, greater, holy, chosen one. You're not moving backwards. You are being reset. Let the world label it stupid. Let heaven call it preparation. To get the blueprint God created exclusively for you, you must first unlearn everything the world has taught you. And once you do, you will not just survive. You'll enter a world in which you don't pursue anything. You attract all you need because you are precisely where God intended for you to be. 1. The world has programmed you to panic when you are unemployed. They advised you to get occupied. Send out applications. Accept whatever you get, just to avoid seeming unproductive. But heaven's voice sounds different. God is not urging you to pursue careers. He's asking you to take up your task. And to accomplish so, you must stop hustling like everyone else and begin constructing like the one you were born to be. Instead of looking for employment, establish a gift business. What does this mean? It entails waking up and thinking, what can I create today that is consistent with my purpose? How can I show up with purpose and share what is already inside me? Whom can I serve? Speak to inspire or advise you. You are not jobless. You are being guided not to a firm, but to your calling. This is the time to begin. Not when you feel prepared. Not if you have a great strategy. Your spirit already knows what. It's time to begin. Maybe there's a YouTube channel. Perhaps it is writing, creating, guiding, healing, speaking, designing, constructing, and educating. Whatever it is, you've been hearing murmurs about it for quite some time. The delay is due to the fact that it is not genuine. It's because you've been conditioned to dread your own ability. But God did not give you that talent so you could sit on a shelf and beg the world for chances. The gift is the opportunity. And when you do it regularly and without shame, heaven will begin to position you in places you could never have achieved with applications alone. People will discover you. Provision will follow you. Platforms will open not because you pursued them, but because you complied. Obedience is your plan. If God tells you to record a message, do it. If He encourages you to provide sessions, begin with what you know. If you're supposed to launch anything, take the first modest step. You do not need to have a business strategy. You need to relocate because spiritual doors do not react to resumes. They react to obedience. And each act of obedience causes a wave. This ripple unlocks the next door. This is the season to start. Begin without knowing the outcome. Begin with your voice still shaking. Begin while you are learning. Begin even if you are terrified. You're not behind. You're in position. You aren't late. You're finally listening. The divine timetable is never hurried, but it is always accurate. And if this message is reaching you right now, it's time. Rather than looking for work, build the altar. An altar is the place where your offering meets God's breath. And whatever you do at the altar, write, speak, teach, create, heal, it will transport electricity. Because you did not do it for attention. You did it with obedience. That type of obedience draws things that the world cannot understand. Clients, collaborations, contracts, ideas, clarity, miracles. Don't wait till you're employed to make yourself helpful. You are already appointed. Don't wait for a supervisor to say yes when God has already spoken. Go. Start with what you know. Teach what you've experienced. Serve from your scars. Please share what He told you. You don't require perfection. You need to relocate. The spiritual economy does not pay according to effort. It releases on the basis of steadfast obedience. So while the rest of the world looks for work, you focus on creating vision. While others submit their resumes, you submit your will. While they are chasing survival, you create out of a position of spiritual abundance. This is how selected ones ascend. And if your spirit is stirring right now, this is your opportunity. You do not need authorization. Start. You must begin to access what has been waiting for you. The chosen one. The actual job was never out there. It was always inside you. Now choose activated. The chosen one. In this time of transition and realignment, the most essential voice to hear is not the world's. It is God's. But let us be honest. With so much competing for your attention, hearing from God might be difficult, if not impossible. You wonder whether it was my thinking. Is that Him? You question what you sensed in your soul. But I want you to understand something. God is still communicating. The issue is, are you still willing to listen? You were picked not just to move, but to move accurately. That implies you can't afford to fuel your way through the season. You need supernatural guidance, precise direction, and you can only get it by quieting the cacophony that has been overwhelming your mind. Diversions, comparisons, and concern about what comes next. They generate static, which drowns out heavenly music. You don't need further guidance. You need more quiet. You don't need bigger voices. You need to be still. God isn't hiding from you. He's communicating via your thoughts, instincts, dreams, and surroundings. But the more chaos you let in, the more difficult it is to identify Him. During this season, selected ones must be diligent about calibrating their frequency, exactly like a radio dial. If you're a little off, you'll hear distortion. However, when you locate the perfect alignment, the signal becomes obvious. That's how God communicates with clarity, consistently birthed. Begin with seclusion, not isolation motivated by anguish, but holy solitude, in which you welcome God into the silence. Set aside some time, even if it is just a few minutes, to sit with no phone, music, or distractions, just you and Him. This is where murmurs become directives. This is where inquiries transform into revelations. God does not always shout. Most of the time, He whispers. However, you will only hear that whisper if you stop shouting at your own existence with continual activity. Next, approach Scripture not as a religious checklist, but as a live, breathing discussion. Sometimes the solution you're looking for is already written, but if you never open it, you'll miss it. God will reinforce what He is saying with scriptures that jump off the page. And when it occurs, write it down. Keep track of His voice. This helps your soul notice the patterns and how He communicates to you. Pay attention to your item. One of the most underestimated ways God communicates is via the spiritual environment. If anything interrupts your tranquility, it is more than simply discomfort. It might be heavenly resistance. And if something gives you unfathomable calm, even in the midst of uncertainty, that is frequently God's way of telling you to press ahead. Peace may not necessarily imply comfort. Sometimes it means finding clarity in the midst of confusion. Also, do not underestimate the importance of dreams and recurring indications. When God emphasizes anything, you will notice it everywhere. The exact same term, topic, and prompting. You could hear it during a discussion, see it in a post, feel it in your gut. That's not a coincidence. That's God confirming what He wants you to recognize. And sure, God will utilize people, but only if you are discriminating. Not all voices are intended to advise you. Some are intended to distract you. That is why your perception must be acute. The chosen ones do not follow crowds. They obey the whisper and the command, the unshakable nudge that will not let them go until they answer. In this season, clarity is power, and your capacity to hear and follow determines how swiftly and precisely you move. God won't compete with your diversions. He'll wait for you to submit. He will wait for you to make the choice to shut out the world and focus on Him. And when you do, clarity will follow. Not always immediately, but always precisely timed. If this message has triggered something deep within you, it is because your soul already understands what your intellect is just starting to comprehend. You have been hearing God all along. It is now time to actively listen. Let everything else vanish. Allow every voice to be suppressed until His becomes the loudest in your life. This is how selected ones ascend. Not by loudness, but by clarity. Not by hurrying, but by accepting. This is your moment. Do not miss it. The chosen one. And no one has ever told you this. I'll tell it now. With full truth and divine clarity. You are not lazy. You're being guided. The heaviness. You've kept that conflict in your head. That sense of being trapped while everyone else seems to be moving. It is not because you failed. It's you have been picked to move differently. God is not hurrying you. He is preparing you. You were never meant to live life in the fast lane. You were made to follow the limited path of alignment. And certainly, that route might seem sluggish. It may seem fruitless on the surface. But what heaven is doing in you goes far beyond what others can perceive. You are not behind. You are being polished. And the refining season frequently appears like quiet, stillness, perplexity, and even inaction. Those who do not grasp divine timing will find serenity when you stop attempting to explain your technique to others who do not bear assignments. You don't have to explain why you've slowed down. You don't need confirmation for why you've gone inside. God is restoring you from the inside out. This is why nothing seems the same anymore. That is why you are unable to return to your previous methods of operation. Your spirit has outgrown the mechanisms that previously supported you. You are not stranded. You're simply too alert to go back asleep. The world values hustle and output, but heaven rewards obedience. And obedience isn't always vocal. It's not always evident. It sometimes seems to be quitting a job, turning away a chance, saying no, when it would have been simpler to say yes, resting while your mind urges you to panic, waiting when everything in you wants to make the next step. That is not laziness. That is spiritual maturity. That is what it means to follow the Spirit rather than the survival mode. You were torn between doing what was expected and doing what was best for your spirit. That tension indicates that you are no longer functioning from your body. You're moving from a deeper place, and with that comes a greater need for discernment. You cannot afford to move quickly only to impress others. You must move precisely to satisfy God. Let me remind you that when God leads you, He provides. Perhaps not all at once. Perhaps not in the manner you anticipated. But always on time. Always plenty. You are not lagging behind financially, emotional, or spiritual. You are being positioned in a manner that allows for long-term provision rather than transient alleviation. What you construct through obedience will survive longer than whatever you impose out of fear. So let go of the shame, guilt, pressure, and comparison. Let go of trying. Prove that you are working hard enough. Heaven already knows your heart. And God does not require you to impress the world. He urged you to follow his voice. And if that voice advises to rest, then do so. If it says wait, then wait. If it suggests to go in a path none else understands, I trusted them anyhow. You're not here to follow trends. You are here to establish heavenly patterns. You're not supposed to seem productive to the world while starving your spirit. Your quiet is not a waste of time. Clarity grows in the dirt. It is the location where electricity is generated. And when it's time to move, you'll do it with power, assurance, and spiritual velocity. But until then, continue to listen. Keep aligning. Continue to trust the selected one. This is not just a pause. It's a setup, and a religious one. You are being directed by invisible hands and heavenly intellect. You are being shaped into someone who does not only work for a livelihood, but lives with a purpose. And if this term describes how you've been feeling in the stillness, know you're not alone. You are just being guided back to your true self. Walk in the truth. Rest in it. And rise when the Spirit says so. Your time is not running out. Your season is merely unfolding. Trust in the process. God is not late, nor are you.